the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast with your host, Jackie Pilosoff.
No one should have to go through a divorce feeling alone and isolated. The Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast is a production of Divorced Girl Smiling, where every show is 30 minutes aimed to empower you, help you feel validated and understood, and connect you with some of the best divorce professionals in the industry. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and start smiling as you join us right now for the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found and always at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. Before we get started, I want to tell you something about a high conflict divorce. It's a very challenging situation, and one thing that is really hard is trying to co-parent productively and do what's best for the kids. If you're in this situation, I want to recommend a wonderful high conflict co-parenting coach. Her name is Sherry Morris. Sherry has been doing this for several years. She's a former practicing attorney. She has one of the best reputations in the coaching industry. And Sherry is just one of those people who makes you feel like everything is going to be okay. And she can help couples, but she can also help individuals who have a really difficult ex. If you want to learn more about Sherry, you can find her at deardivorcecoach.com. You can also find her in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. I also want to tell you about a really good team of real estate agents in Chicago. Their names are Tammy Levy and Debbie Glickman of Glickman Levy Residential. These two women are amazing. I've known them for many, many years, and they are just so dedicated to being real estate agents. They love what they're doing. They're extremely successful. They will help you through the divorce and help you find a wonderful home if you're looking for one, and of course, help you sell yours. If you want to learn more, you can find them at properties.com/site/Glickman Levy Residential, or of course in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. I also want to tell you about Vestor Capital, which is a team of financial advisors. They are my financial advisors, and I've known them since 2015. Elaine Moss, Pete Mullins, and Lauren Connolly are the team. They help people going through a divorce and after divorce. I cannot explain even how great both the service and the performance has been. I love Vestor. I trust them. They're really good people. So if you're looking for a financial advisor, I'd highly recommend them. You can learn more at vestorcapital.com or in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. People, I don't think, realize this, but kids pick up on everything we say and do. I believe personally that it starts even when your child is still in you when you're pregnant. I think that even babies, newborns, they pick up on so much more than we even think they do. And I want to talk about that today because it's so important in divorce to have as good of behavior as you can and just try to remember that your child is watching and absorbing everything. That's what we want to talk about today, not to make you feel badly, but just to keep you aware that your child, you might think, isn't listening or isn't picking up on things, and your child is. And a lot of women will say to me, "Oh, I feel so frustrated because my kids are never going to know that my ex cheated on them." And I say to them, they already know. I don't care if they're 3, they know. They just pick up on things. So this is going to be a wonderful conversation. And I have a great guest to talk about this. Her name is Catherine Rupp, and Catherine is a divorce attorney and a judicial education coordinator for Our Family Wizard. And Catherine is also divorced. She's a mom and she's gone through this. So this is going to be a really good conversation. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for taking time to do this. It's such an important conversation. You were telling me before the podcast that you have a 6-year-old son. Do you agree with what I'm saying that they pick up on every single little thing?
Oh, yes, they are little sponges from the very beginning. And I think, I know for myself personally, one of the big factors that went into my separation was the thought that I wanted to be a good role model for my son, and what we were modeling for him in our relationship wasn't healthy. And I think that's fair and true for a lot of people going through divorce, but then for some reason, once you get to the divorce part, you sort of forget that, okay, we're looking for something better in our lives and to model something better for our kids, and you have to kinda keep that in mind.
I think that's a great way to look at it because I always tell people, tell me if you agree with this, that your children are better off if they have co-parents who have a healthy relationship than married parents who never got divorced that have a terrible relationship and speak to each other with disrespect, anger, resentment. And so, what do you think?
Oh, I completely agree. And, I think it's also something that I remind myself of when I slip up, because we're human and we all make mistakes, is that, my son is half of my ex, and children internalize any sort of criticism or perceived or otherwise of their other parent as criticism of themselves. And so when you're wanting to speak poorly about your ex, I try to imagine, is that something I would say about my son to his face? And, and try to use that as a guideline to help keep some boundaries there and just be empathetic. And
Well, I love that you said, I'm human, I slip up because everybody does. And I don't want people listening to think that we're judging you. I'm sure everyone listening has talked poorly about their ex in front of their kids. Yours truly, big time. I've done it. So I'm not judging anybody. We just want you to be aware of it and minimize it and do it as little as possible so your kids can end up happy and healthy and you'll actually feel better about yourself as well if you just stop the negative talk and try to have the best co-parenting relationship as possible. And Catherine, I'm sure you agree. We know it's hard. It's really, really hard.
it's really hard, but it's also, when you do make those mistakes, it's a good opportunity to model for your kids, some good communication, compassion, ways to make amends, all of those things that we want our children to be able to do. You kind of got to look for the opportunities when you slip up to model that as well.
I love that. And I was gonna get into our discussion, but I just wanna say first, I think that what do you think about if you do talk negatively and then apologize to your kids and say, that might have seemed really harsh and insensitive, and I was just very angry, and I think your father's a good person. I'm just really angry.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to handle it. And, even fault taking that one step further, telling them, how you wished you would have acted, in the future, I'm going to, keep this to myself, or I'm going to, you know, it- whatever it is.
Talk
And
to my
talk
therapist
to my
about it.
therapist or a trusted friend or whatever it might be, but giving your child an example of a healthier way to handle those emotions. I feel like a broken record sometimes with my 6-year-old, that it's okay to feel angry, but it's not okay to, you know, speak poorly about somebody else. And I made a mistake, and in the future, I'm going to keep that to myself, or go for a walk and calm down, or take a deep breath before I speak from a place of anger.
I love it. Okay, let's get into the 3 C's in what your children will learn during and after your divorce. And this is conversation is based on an article that Catherine wrote for Divorced Girl Smiling. You can find it on divorcedgirlsmiling.com. The first one is they are going to learn conflict communication. They're going to see their parents have conflict and they're going to see the whole range of they could handle it really well, they could handle it really poorly, and everything in between. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think that's just sort of goes to what we've been talking about is kids are going to hear how you're handling the situations. Problems are going to arise whether you're married or separated or not, and they're going to take from how you're handling it and model that in their own relationships, friendships, romantic relationships going forward, whatnot. And we want to make sure that we are teaching healthy forms of communication through modeling that with our co-parents. And sometimes that's not possible for everybody, and you have to figure out a solution that's going to limit the amount of conflict that kids are exposed to, and you can use tools like Our Family Wizard to do that. Or you have to come up with a different coping mechanism, a different plan so you can make sure that you're putting your best foot forward when you're interacting with your co-parent in front of your kids.
Okay, now I'm glad you brought that up because I was just about to say, so Catherine is a judicial education coordinator. She works for Our Family Wizard. And what we're talking about is a tool that will help you in these conversations not blow up in front of your kids, not talk poorly in front of your kids, because you can communicate on this wonderful app, which does not even cost a lot, and you're getting your points across in a way that is respectful, to the point, gets what you want done without the screaming, snide comments, silent treatment, all things that your children can see. So I truly believe that Our Family Wizard, it comes up in almost every podcast I do because it's such a wonderful tool to help and protect children through the divorce.
Oh, yeah. It makes it really easy for you to keep sort of a business-like relationship with your co-parent and keep you on track there and have some healthy boundaries in place.
You're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Today, I'm here with divorce attorney Catherine Rupp. Catherine is a judicial education coordinator for Our Family Wizard, and we're talking about children and divorce, specifically 3 things they will learn during and after your divorce. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we have the other 2 C's. We'll be right back. The finance aspect of a divorce can feel stressful and daunting and confusing. How do I know how much money I need to live comfortably? Am I going to be able to stay in my home? How am I going to prepare my taxes without a spouse? What should I ask for in the divorce? These are all questions that most people really don't even know how to begin answering. They have so little confidence in themselves when it comes to anything financially related. If you are in this situation, I'd highly recommend financial divorce coach Hirsch Sermon. Hirsch has an MBA, a CPA, and he's a CDFA. He will hold your hand throughout the entire divorce and help you make financial decisions. He's not a financial advisor. He doesn't invest money, but he can help you with these things. Just simplify your financial life, help you get what you want in the divorce, help you know what to ask for. Great person. If you want to learn more about Hirsch, you can find him at lifecycle.financial. I also want to tell you about a really wonderful divorce attorney in Chicago and the North Shore named Debbie Cohen. Debbie is so caring, so compassionate, and so non-judgmental. That is how she actually has described the environment she wants to create for her clients. She's a former Cook County Assistant State's Attorney and investigator for the Inspector General who decided 5 years ago to specialize in divorce law. Love Debbie, really trust her. If you're looking for a divorce attorney in Chicago, I'd highly recommend. And you can find Debbie at CohenLawDefense.com or in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. And today we're talking about the 3 C's in what your children will learn during and after divorce. And my guest is Our Family Wizard, Judicial Education Coordinator, and divorce attorney, Catherine Rupp. Catherine, the second thing of the 3 C's is coping. So when kids see their parents go through a divorce, they probably see every coping mechanism that starts with possibly their parents having a glass of wine every night, their parents going out a lot with their girlfriends, their parents crying. I mean, whatever it is. But they can also see good coping mechanisms. Like they see their parents like join a gym and start getting in shape and working out. They see what are some other good coping mechanisms that kids will see and model after?
I think seeing parents put themselves first, putting their goals first, maybe recommitting to something that they'd put aside during their marriage, whether it's a hobby that you loved or pursuing some goal that maybe didn't get your attention as much as it could have due to the conflict in your marriage. Just all of those healthy personal growth things that we want to model for our kids and show them how you want to be the best version of yourself. It's I'm guilty of falling into the nightly glass of wine and having to be aware of those coping mechanisms, and I think, again, divorce can be a really good opportunity to reevaluate sort of your life and where you're at and where you wanna be and the type of parent you wanna be, and you can incorporate your kids into those coping mechanisms. Go for a walk, play a game, start a new hobby, start a new tradition, um, make it a positive experience, not something that you're leaning back on.
Okay, so the difference between this conversation and a conversation of like, here are some healthy coping mechanisms is that we're telling people that not only is a healthy coping mechanism going to help you, but your kids are going to see it and then they're going to cope with adversity in their lives in the same way. So let's go to the example of the nightly glass of wine. Now, I'm not judging. I love my wines. I'm just going to say it. But when I was going through a divorce, I went through a phase where I was having a glass of wine every night, and my kids were like 3 and 5 years old. And then after a few weeks, I had the best therapist, and she said, be careful because people going through a divorce are very susceptible to becoming an alcoholic and other addictions because you're just so vulnerable and you're trying to cope and you're soothing your anxiety in this
Mhm.
terrible coping mechanism. So she said, be careful. So one day I thought to myself, okay, my kids are watching me drink a glass of wine every single night. This was after like a month. And I was
Mhm.
thinking, do I want my daughter to come home and cope with her problems by having a glass of wine? So I decided to just switch and I made hot tea.
That's
And
great.
it was really started to have the same effect. Like everything is what you're used to. But I want to tell people listening, I'm not judging. I'm just trying to help because it is very bad for you physically to have a glass of wine every night,
Mhm.
and it's bad for your kids to see it.
It is, and it's something that could hurt your case too. You don't want, things that you're doing are gonna get back to your co-parent, and you wanna make sure that you're setting yourself up for success and what's going on there, and that things aren't maybe blown out of proportion or taken out of context. You never really know how that's
Oh, I didn't even think of the legal perspective.
Mhm. So yeah, you just have to be really mindful, and a cup of tea is great. I think one thing that I really leaned on was journaling, and that's something that my son picked up on and noticed, like, oh, mom likes to sit and write in her journal in the evenings, and now he keeps a little journal. And it's things like that that are nice positive things that you can bestow or teach your children or model for your kids, and
I love that. And then also even deep breathing. So
Mhm.
everybody has heard, I think it's called like the 5-7-5, or I can't remember the numbers, but you take it
Box
in these
breathing. Yep.
yeah, like you take in a breath for 5 seconds, you hold it for 7 seconds, you then exhale for 7 seconds or something like that.
Mhm.
And you could tell your kids, like, I am really trying, I feel very stressed, and this is a good way. Why don't you do it with me? And then
Mhm.
your kids are going to learn that deep breathing. It's a really wonderful thing. And I hope nobody's rolling your eyes because I swear when I first heard about it, I was like, whatever, this is not going to work. But it does. It's a
It
really
does.
good coping mechanism.
I was just joking with a girlfriend. We were meeting and we were talking about how we've, a different exercise routine and journaling and all these healthy things. And we're like, gosh, it's true, right? You do the things you're supposed to do, the
And it
things we
works.
roll our eyes at, and it
Boy,
works.
these experts really might know what they're talking about.
Exactly. Those 10,000 steps a day, getting outside into nature, drinking less, all those things.
Okay, I was gonna move on, but I think you're right. There's one more coping mechanism that I absolutely love, and it is going outside and looking at nature because
Mhm.
it just brings you back to life is so much larger than your divorce. I'm not saying that you're not in pain, that your divorce isn't a big deal. Your divorce is a big deal, but in your whole scheme of life, it's going to be like a blip. And so when you go out and you see these beautiful God's creations and you look around, you go, wow, I'm sitting here breathing in this air. I'm looking at the most beautiful ocean or snow, even, or flowers, babies, puppies, whatever it is you're seeing. Even like when you go to the mall and you see these beautiful handbags, it's like, ooh, this is out there for a reason. It can be material. It doesn't matter. Whatever you feel that makes you happy and inspired by something larger than just your divorce.
That there's something more out there. And, I know for me, being in nature always helps. As cheesy as it sounds, it was a good, very visceral reminder that this is a season of your life and that change is inevitable and it's gonna happen. And just because you're in this darker place or this challenging spot, it's not always going to be that way.
I love that.
A real reminder of that.
Nothing people say to me sometimes when they're getting divorced, they'll cry and say like, "I feel like nothing's changing." And I'm like, "Okay, it's only been 3 weeks. Next year at this time, I guarantee everything will have changed."
Yes.
It's impossible for it not to. It just takes a lot longer sometimes than we want it to.
Oh, yeah, and I think that's true for parenting and raising kids and all of that is if you're feeling stuck in the moment, just give it time. One of the biggest coping mechanisms is just to be patient and move forward, be resilient, and know that change is coming.
I love it. Okay, last one of the 3 C's is compassion. So you and your kids are going to learn compassion in your divorce. Tell me about that, Catherine.
Oh, you're gonna have a lot of opportunities to model this. Like we've talked about, nobody's perfect, your co-parent isn't perfect. You're going to be faced with opportunities to either model for your kids, judgment and, uh,
Disdain.
inflexibility, or you can model for them compassion and empathy and resilience. A great example of this is your co-parent's late or your co-parent wants to change a day on your parenting plan. You can complain, you can, try to make that into something that it's not, or use it as evidence that your co-parent isn't a good parent or they're not following the plan. Or you can use it as an opportunity to say, hey, this is another human being. I'm going to treat them the way I'd want to be treated in this situation and show that for your parents. My ex and I, we don't have a great relationship. We do a lot of parallel parenting. But one thing I am really proud of our co parenting relationship is that we always stand up for the other one in front of our son. If my son is treating my ex poorly, it's, hey, we don't talk to dad that way, or vice versa. We don't talk to mom that way, or, we don't treat mom that way. And that's an opportunity where, you could easily fall into, oh, yeah, well, dad's being a jerk. Look at that. Or you can model for your kids what you would hope that they would want to do or who you
Oh
want.
my gosh, I love this. I'm sitting here taking notes. Okay. So, what I want to tell people listening is that you have so much more power than you think. Your kids are looking at you. You have power as a mother, you have power as a father, if you're a guy listening to this, and you have power as a parenting team. So, I have young adult kids.
Mhm.
I know that their whole lives, we've been divorced since they were 2 and 4, we got separated. Their whole lives, if I said no, they would call their dad, and he would pretty much say yes. Not all the time for the whole 18 years, but a lot of times. And he would use that as, like, a way to get them to, like, be really happy with him. And then
Mhm.
there's been times where we were both on the same page, which was so much more powerful. It's like, your mother and I have decided that this is what you're doing.
Yes.
And you have so much power, and your kids are going to end up so much better for it if you go that route instead of trying to be like, I want to be the good one that the kids are happy with.
Mhm. Certainly. And I've found in those moments where we're on the same page like that, I generally feel more positive about our co-parenting relationship than I do when we're pitching each other against each other, or pitting each other against each other, or being combative.
Absolutely. And then the other thing I was going to bring up is the power of having grace. So, like, let's say you have a kid who says, like, Mom, dad has this new girlfriend, and I do really like her, but I don't know. What if they get married and blah, blah, blah? And you're thinking to yourself, well, this is like, going to be his third marriage or whatever. You're rolling your eyes thinking, he can't be alone. And you're thinking all this stuff. And then you say, to your kids, anything negative is not having grace. Just have grace and say, well, I wish them all the best. That's all you have to say. And if you don't wish them all the best, just say, you don't even have to say that, but just say, well, everyone wants to be happy. And if that's making him happy, then we should respect that. And that's it. Instead of, "I can't believe he's getting married again. This is the 4th time." You don't wanna say that because then your kids will grow up acting that way. You wanna have grace, and I just did this video about having grace and how I didn't have grace when my ex got a girlfriend,
Mhm.
started dating my neighbor after we
Oh
got the
gosh.
night was, like, so psycho about it.
Uh-huh.
I really wish that I wouldn't have been, but whatever, it didn't last long, and, you know,
Yeah.
just if it's hard with people are listening and it's hard for you, just know that everything's gonna change. Like Catherine said, it's only the 1st quarter of the football game.
Exactly. And you wanna be I you wanna be friends with your kids for more than when they're just kids, right? You're saying you have adult children. You're gonna have more of a relationship with your kids while they're adults than you are while they're kids. But what you do while they're kids is gonna inform that relationship down the road. So you wanna show them that, not only are you gonna have compassion for your ex, but you're gonna have compassion for them as well, they're looking at how you're reacting and judging their ex. What if they wanted to come to you as an adult with some big life decision, but they're afraid to do that because they know, "Oh, mom's gonna roll her eyes or judge or go off the rails," or whatever it might be. You're teaching them that that's how you react to these types of things, and you don't wanna do that. You want them to be able to come to you and feel like you're a safe space.
Oh my gosh, I have loved this conversation. Catherine, thank you so much for taking time.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I just wanted to end on a positive note and tell people listening, yes, this whole time, Catherine and I have been talking about how your kids are absorbing everything you say or do. And you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, I've done so much damage already. Of course you have, because everyone has. But don't worry about it. Just do the best you can and just keep in mind your children are watching, and remember that your kids adore you. They love you regardless of your faults and your mistakes. So all we can all do is be the best we can.
Exactly. I love that.
And I want to tell my listeners, if you want to learn more about Our Family Wizard, go to ourfamilywizard.com. It's a great app. It has so many features. It has communication, you can share expenses. That reduces conflict so much because you're sharing expenses and now your ex can see exactly the money spent on your kids. You can What else does Our Family Wizard offer in the app?
You can message, you have your shared calendar, you can keep track of changes to the calendar without having to message back and forth. You can oh, my one of my favorites is the journal. You can keep journal entries there to document what's going on with the kids, and you can even have private journal entries. It's a great place to do that. Um, we also have voice and video calling now, so if you're wanting to have some virtual visitation with kids, you can do that through the app and document that that's happening. It's really
And then
handy.
there's one other feature I think is wonderful, which is, um, how you can put all your kids' medical information in
Mhm.
there. Like, I think my ex has probably texted me 100 times, "Can you give me the kids' Social Security numbers?" Not that that's his fault, but how much easier would it have been if he coulda gone to Our Family Wizard and found it himself?
Oh, yeah.
So,
We're info
you
big.
know, and then right, and then everything is in there, and I love this app so much, and it really reduces conflict. So, just wanted to say that again, ourfamilywizard.com. Oh, I was gonna say one more thing. I was
Mhm.
like, I forgot what I was gonna say, but now I remember. The nice thing also about Our Family Wizard, like you might think, "Well, why can't I just voice chat or video my ex and just not use the app?" Because it's all saved so that if you need to use anything in court or there's any problems, it's all documented right there. And then you don't have to look for all the emails for court. They're all right there. And it definitely keeps everybody on their best behavior too.
Yes, that's sort of the knowing that that's there and that it is being tracked and documented really keeps people in line and putting their best foot forward.
Love it. Thanks again, Catherine.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
So, like I said, if you want to learn more, go to ourfamilywizard.com. And you can also find Our Family Wizard in the trusted professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling, which is divorcedgirlsmiling.com. And you can also find on the website other trusted, vetted divorce professionals. You can listen to more podcasts, read articles, or sign up for my free consult. Thanks so much for listening, everyone, and we'll talk to you real soon.